All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation titled Reduce, Reuse, Recycle, Rethink. We will go ahead and get started. My name is Jennifer Rodriguez, and I am a civil engineering assistant in the Environmental Programs Division here in LA County Public Works. Today, I will introduce some ideas and best practices for waste reduction and waste management. We will have a question and answer session at the end, so please use the Q&A function to ask your questions. If we don't get to answer your question today, we will get back to you via email, or if you think of another question later, you can go ahead and email us as well. So today we will talk about the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, rethink. The end goal is for all of us to think outside of the box when it comes to our waste. So the first R we will talk about today is reduce. Waste reduction is the preferred approach to waste management because if waste is not created, then we don't have to worry about managing it or discarding it. So an example of waste reduction is reducing unnecessary packaging from products and produce. If this excess packaging was never produced in the first place, no one would have to be concerned with the cost and effort of collecting, breaking it down, transporting it to the manufacturers for recycling, and then integrating the recycled materials back into the manufacturing process. Think about where you can reduce your waste. For example, you may be able to shop locally, perhaps at a farmer's market, small business, or maybe there is a refill store that exists nearby. Refill stores usually allow you to use and reuse your own containers to prevent them from being disposed. If you purchase takeout to eat at home, ask the restaurant to hold the utensils and napkins, or remember to bring your own if you're going to eat out. I try to carry my own reusable cup, a takeout container, and utensil when I know I'm going to eat out, or when I know I'm going to be hanging out with friends and we may need to drink or have something to eat. So here's an example of a cup that I like to carry around. It's metal, so it's pretty sturdy. A utensil, which is like a spoon and a fork. And normally I try to carry around a plastic reusable container with a lid. That way I can use it and have it handy whenever we're going to eat. So setting up a compost system might be an option for you as well. Or maybe you have a local garden you can visit. This will help reduce the amount of food waste disposed and add nutritional value to your soil. Waste reduction is the key to conserving resources and providing a cleaner and healthier environment. Consider doing what we call a waste audit. For example, if we were doing a waste audit in a kitchen, we may look at purchasing food in bulk, which you can see in the containers on the countertop there. Maybe we can reuse items like coffee filters or tea filters and use reusable cloth napkins that we can wash and keep using. We may also be able to reuse trash can liners or eliminate them completely where it makes sense. You can also try to avoid using single-use plastic, such as the condiment packets and utensils when ordering takeout, a common issue during our current pandemic. Where else can you see yourself reducing waste where you live, work, or shop? Doing a waste audit is a great way to find out where you can take some quick changes and where you may need some more time to figure out alternative solutions for waste reduction. Other examples, just to get you all thinking of different solutions, is junk mail. Can you stop junk mail from being delivered in your home or at your workspace? In your workspace, if you're currently working from home and planning to return to the office or already in the office, Can you bring a reusable cup or mug to purchase your drinks during a coffee break? At the store, can you remember to bring your own bags and bag your own groceries? When gifting a present, graduation, birthdays, can you rethink the wrapping paper or skip the new bag? Maybe repurpose some magazines, newspapers, or another bag to put your product or present in. These are just a few ideas to get you to start thinking about different ways you can use to reduce your waste. Small changes add up. The next R is reuse. Some items can be reused over and over. For example, plates, cooking utensils, mugs, clothes, etc. But when they break or stop working, and before you throw them away, can you think of any way you can give them a new life or purpose? Many items we throw away have the potential to be reused. Reusing allows you to get the most out of your products you buy and saves you money. Reusing also conserves natural resources and valuable landfill space. Pictured here, you have a creative way to reuse bottles and cans to hold flowers and plants. The classic example of using your own water bottle and not purchasing single-use plastic water bottles. And a mask, which you can make from worn clothing or make cleaning rags from worn clothing. Here is a mask that I had a friend make for me using an old bandana and some shoelaces. Hopefully you all can see that. Also, here is a mask made from sleeves that I cut from a shirt. And this was used to wrap some present that I had. So this is a nice purple string. So the idea is to reuse things and prevent them from going to landfill, not just have them serve a purpose, make a pit stop before going to landfill. When you have determined that an item can't possibly be reused for its original purpose, with some creativity, can you find a new use or function for the item? For example, can you repurpose a container for a plant? I'll show you all a lid that used to be a lid for a lotion. And now I use it as the bottom to hold water for my plant. So, trash or waste is made up of many valuable resources that you can reuse again with a little bit of rethinking. Next R is recycle. Recycling works best when we avoid wish cycling and contamination. Wish cycling is when we put something that is not recyclable in the recycling bin and hope that it gets recycled. Contamination can happen when items that were recyclable are no longer recyclable because they become soiled or damaged. For example, think about coffee or water spilling on paper, a water bottle that was recyclable filled with oil, or broken glass. So how does recycling work? The recycling loop begins with collecting items that are recyclable for processing. Collecting recyclables varies from community to community. For example, you may have curbside pre-sorted or in a blue bin. You may have curbside unsorted collection, where all of your waste is collected together, including your recyclables, and separated from waste at a materials recovery facility. You may take your recyclables to a buyback center to participate in the CRV or California Refund Value Program. If you are unsure if an item is recyclable, check with your waste hauler. Pictured here, you see the top 5 household items that can be recycled: paper, cardboard, plastics number 1 and number 2, glass, aluminum, and metal containers. The second step in the recycling loop is manufacturing. Recyclables are delivered to a materials recovery facility, or MRF, for processing and prepared into marketable commodities for manufacturing. Recyclables are bought and sold just like any other commodity. and prices for the materials change and fluctuate with market conditions. Some of you may have heard of China's national sword policy, which banned the import of plastics and other materials in 2018. That means that our largest buyer of recyclables is no longer purchasing this commodity, and we must find alternatives for recyclable materials instead of landfilling them or having them pollute our environment. In the image, you can also see what the top 5 commonly recycled items are transformed into. For example, paper, the first one, is recycled into other paper products, such as egg cartons, drywall sheets. Cardboard, carpeting, and glass may also contain recycled material. The third step and final step in the recycling loop is purchasing recycled products. By purchasing products that contain recycled content, we can all play an important role in making the recycling process a success. As consumers demand recycled content products and environmentally friendly products, manufacturers will continue to meet that demand. Remember, you're not truly recycling until you make the commitment to buy recycled products and close the recycling loop. Recycling is a good option for items that you can no longer repurpose or reuse, but keep in mind that recycled products can still end up in the landfill at the end of their life, which is why it's important to reduce our waste to begin with and make sure that we close the loop when it comes to recycling. The final R we will talk about today is rethinking. You can start rethinking at any time, but I would like to challenge you to rethink before you purchase and discard items. Reducing the amount of waste we create is the main goal. Rethink before you throw away an item that is broken or worn out. Before purchasing something new, can you ask yourself, can I reuse this? Can I repair this item? Is it recyclable? You can also ask yourself these questions before you discard or throw away an item as waste. Finding alternatives to throwing something away is a good way to rethink, and you get to be creative. Hopefully, you've already started thinking about ways that you can reduce your waste or repurpose it. So remember the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, rethink. The first step in waste management is waste reduction. If waste is not created, then we don't have to manage it. Second step, reuse. Many items we throw away have the potential to be reused in new projects. Reusing allows you to get the most out of the products you buy, conserving money and natural resources. Third, recycle. Remember, recycling only works if we complete the loop from collection to purchasing items made from recycled content. Know what you can and can't recycle in your area. Finally, rethink. Rethink all of your purchases and before you throw away an item. Can this item be reused next time? Can you repurpose the item? Will it be recycled? That concludes the presentation, and we can move on to the question and answer portion. Remember to use the Q&A function to ask any questions. Also, visit RethinkLA and CleanLA, our websites, for more information and ideas on how to reduce your waste. If you're on social media, you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter using the handles shown on your screen at LA County Public Works or LA Co Public Works for Instagram and Twitter. My information is also on the screen. In case we don't get to answer your question today, we will get back to you via email. So let me go ahead and check the Q&A box. Remember to add your questions in there. So we have one question, and I know it's grayed out for you all. Where can I get more information about environmental programs the county offers? That's a really good question. You can visit our websites shown on the screen, RethinkLA, CleanLA.com. Thank you all for being here. Hopefully you have some good ideas, have the thinking gears going for you to reduce waste and rethink your purchases. So a few other questions. Can Public Works staff provide seminars to the community? Yes, this is part of a series. So make sure to check our website to see what other events we have coming up. We have many events lined up for Earth Week. Another question is, how can we encourage family members to recycle? This is a really great question and one that I also struggle with my own family. I think making it as easy as possible for people, sharing information with people about what is and what isn't recyclable, and just making it as accessible for folks to be able to recycle. So another question is, are we considering weekly or monthly presentations on creative reuse? Someone liked my lid example for the plant. I think that is something that we can provide for the community. Make sure to keep checking our websites, RethinkLA, CleanLA, for more upcoming events. And if you're on social media, follow us there as well. We have a really good question. If glass is broken, why won't it be recycled if it is melted down anyway? And that comes down to a safety issue. And we can get back to you via email. But right now, if we place broken glass in our bin, someone may be injured from the broken glass. Can we invite your staff to our event, nonprofit org, to present a couple topics? You can reach out to us via email and we can figure out a way to set something up, or follow us online, social media, and visit our websites to know when we are going to have similar presentations to this. We have a really good question. Is there an easier way to recycle? This is a really good question. I will have to get back to you on that via email to get maybe more information on what might be easier for communities, for people. That's a great question. Thank you. Someone asked if there is a list of refill stores on our website. At this time, we don't have a list of refill stores, but a quick online search for your area will help you find a refill store nearby. So another question regarding broken glass. Broken glass, and if I can get back to you via email as well with more detailed information. But for now, I would recommend for people to place broken glass in a container of some sort that won't break, and place it in your trash bin. We don't want to have anyone injured from having broken glass loose.
Hey Jennifer, this is Kobe. I thought I'd just add a little bit more because I see a lot of curious people, which I love to see on the webinar. The way that recycling is processed is that it's when the truck picks up your recycling bin at your curbside, it sends it to what's called a material recovery facility. And there are actually people that are processing that material. So you can imagine conveyor belts with your plastic bottles and glass and jars and other recyclable materials getting picked through. A lot of it is mechanized, but there are people that also process it. And so there's two reasons why broken glass would create a problem. One is that as individual workers are going through that material, they might cut their hands. They do wear gloves, but it can be a concern. And the other is that the machinery that's being used to separate those materials needs to have a large enough item. So a full glass jar will be processed and separated as glass, but little bits of broken glass will go through the screens and end up not being recycled anyway. And so that's why, for those two reasons, it's important to make sure we don't put broken glass in the recycling bin. It should go into your trash instead.
I have a couple of really good questions as well. Regarding the 4 Rs, what are the community benefits to reducing, reusing, recycle, and rethinking? And the community benefits are many, and a couple that I can name are having a healthier environment for everyone involved, people, animals, um, and having creative ways to repurpose things that would normally go to waste. For example, magazines can have a creative outlet for people to make collages and art, um, and have that creativity when thinking about our waste. Thank you for that question. And one final question that we have here, um, what is the best way to recycle? And the best way is to figure out what is recyclable in your area through your waste hauler. So, of course, making sure that when you are going to recycle, make sure your containers are clean and dry to prevent that contamination that we talked about. And also making sure that your items will be recycled by contacting your waste hauler if you have any questions about that. So specific questions on cooking oil, if that can be recycled, or old clothes that can't be reused anymore. Kobe, are you still here? Do you want to take on the cooking oil question?
Hey, Jennifer.
Yeah.
So I was going to answer the question about the used oil, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what you can do with clothing. So people may not know, but you can actually reuse used oil. If you're cooking and you strain out any materials in it and you haven't heated it too high, you can actually reuse oil a couple of times. Once it's done, ideally what we want to do, if there's large quantities of it, we don't want that going down the drain, because fats, oil, and grease going down the drain can create blockages. So that's another item that you probably want to throw away into the trash. The other option for it is if there are local places that recycle used oil, and there are some that you can look up online, they actually convert it into fuel. And you can make biodiesel or other fuel from used oil. And that's a pretty neat thing. If there's a local option near you, definitely encourage people to look into that. Regarding clothing, the best thing to do is, if an item is still usable, is to donate it to a local thrift store. For clothing that you can't really use anymore, if it's a soft piece of cloth, I would encourage you to keep it around as a piece of a rag or cleaning cloth. I do that with some of my old t-shirts. And you can even compost. If something is 100% cotton, it can be composted in your backyard compost bin. But ultimately, especially for synthetic fabrics, if it's torn, the only option is to throw it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vanessa Olivas, and I oversee environmental programs outreach. I wanted to also address some of the questions. I know there's a lot of questions, and we appreciate them. One question keeps coming up regarding recyclables. So there's a lot of different materials, right? And each hauler processes them differently. Some haulers may accept certain products and some might not. So the best would be to contact your hauler to see what material is appropriate to put in your recycling bin. And one thing that you can do, or a couple things that you can do to make sure that the recyclable material has its best chance to get recycled, and that's to follow quick, easy steps, right? So you want the item to be empty, so remove everything from the item. You want it to be clean as possible. That doesn't mean you have to wash it thoroughly, just a quick rinse in, you through under your sink. and make sure that you put in the recycling bin. So as Jennifer mentioned during the presentation, some material that is able to be recycled sometimes isn't recycled because it's contaminated. So taking a couple of minutes to make sure that the items you put in your recycling bin makes a big difference. So remember, anything you put in the recycling bin should not have anything in it, and shouldn't be no residue or anything like that. I mean, you don't have to wash it that much, but quick rinse and make sure that it's clean so it doesn't contaminate anything else. So when the hauler comes down your street, it doesn't just go to your house, it goes to everybody else's house. So if you clean yours and you put and they collect it, it doesn't contaminate anybody else's. So that would be one thing that you can take away from this webinar, as of course reducing waste in general, but if you are putting items in your recycling bin, to make sure that they're clean in there. Let me see. I know there was a question that Jennifer touched on about if we're available to make presentations. Yes, absolutely. Contact us and we'll work with you to do that. I'm going to include my email address in the chat box. So if there's any questions that we didn't get to today, you can email them to me and I'll be sure to get a response back to you. Let me see. Can you recycle mannequins? Maybe there's a way you can repurpose mannequins. It could be, but you would have to contact your hauler to see if that's something you can put in your recycling bin. Can you recycle old metal? Yes, absolutely. Metal is recyclable. If you can see, sometimes people drive down the street collecting metal because it is recyclable. Let me see. Do I have to wash recycled bottles and cans? Yes, we talked about making sure they're clean. CRV, bottles and cans, you absolutely want to recycle those items. Electric cables, I think those would be an issue with the material recycling centers because it gets tangled in the machinery, so you don't want to put those in the recycling bin. Cloth, I think Kobe covered the cloth and the cooking oil.
Vanessa, let me add something else regarding what is recyclable and what to put in your curbside bin, because those two sometimes get confused. What we've been talking about mainly today is what to recycle at your curbside recycling bin. Plastic bags are an example of something that can be recycled if you take it to a store that has a separate collection bin for film plastic. But we don't want to put it in our curbside bin because, again, if it goes to that machinery, that film plastic and wires and cables, things like that, really make a mess of that machinery. They're tough and get tangled up in it. And so the recyclers really prefer that you don't put it in your curbside bin. Things like mannequins, that's another example where there might be a way to reuse them, repurpose them, or maybe even recycle them if you find a specialty recycler. But you don't want to put a mannequin in your curbside bin. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you all. Please make sure to go to cleanla.com to see our future presentations. We have a few more coming up in the next couple of days and week. Happy Earth Day to everyone as well. Thank you all for your interest and for being here and caring about our environment. Vanessa, did you have any last words, or Kobe, any last words to say to folks?
All I want to say is I love all these great questions. People are really thinking creatively about how they can keep things out of the landfill, and that's what we love to see, especially on Earth Day. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. Hopefully we'll see you at a different presentation.